There were some key moments, and one of them was this moment of learning about this new technology that Honeywell had just acquired, and communication protocol around that. I was fascinated about it. I was like, oh my God, this is really, really interesting. This is really, really cool. And then I just made a decision probably 2 weeks after that to dive straight into this new group that was exploring a new communications protocol around fully automated demand response. I started to jump on YouTube and see these channels, and it started to inspire me about thinking about the trade. And I was talking to my partner. I said, oh, we should really think about doing a little side business.
Hola, what's up, everybody? Welcome and welcome back to the Reliable HVACR podcast. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed, like, comment, all that good stuff. If you guys are listening to this on the audio podcast, wherever you listen to it, please leave a review, get this show out to more people. And if you guys are watching and listening, I truly appreciate it. We would not be here without you. Now, on that point, the first sponsor of the podcast is VIZALOGIX. The future of remote support is here now. With VIZALOGIX TethrIT Now, you can actually see what the other person is seeing. If you've ever had an issue where you're trying to help somebody over the phone, whether it's a tech of yours or a customer, we try to avoid a lot of nuisance calls, right? And you're trying to explain something over the phone, they don't understand you, you end up having to go there in person, and it might be something like really dumb. With TethrIT Now, you can actually take these video calls, no matter if they're on iPhone, Android, whatever device, because you send a link that they click on and it starts or initiates a video call. And then with their technology, you're able to take pictures, draw on the screen, tell them exactly where to look for this or that, or point to things, circle things, and show them exactly what you're talking about, or you can actually see what they issues I have. So with that, you can actually guide your tech through a call, or you can actually tell the customer, let me see your breaker. Is it tripped? Is it off? Where's the power button? Is it plugged in? All these little things that you could avoid, because like a company like us, we're a little too busy. We could be doing other calls versus going to turn a breaker back on for somebody. That happens quite a bit often. So if you guys want to learn more on VIZALOGIX TethrIT Now, visit VIZALOGIX.com/HVAC. And the next sponsor is my favorite CRM, Jobber. Now with Jobber, we can do professional invoicing and quoting, at its base, but it has so many more features. You can schedule, which we use for reoccurring maintenance. So every 6 months, this thing will remind the customer. There's so much more you can do to message customers, set up reminders, set up scheduling. You can do more with checking in and out. You have price lists. You have tons and tons of features. If you guys need help organizing your business and helping it run smoother, it's been night and day for us. We came from paper invoices. I looked at or into other softwares, and there's a lot of complaints on other ones. And one of the big ones is affordability. Now with Jobber, they have really great prices. I promise you, they have something for anybody starting and needs just the basics. And then as you grow, you can get into these much bigger plans, and it grows with your business. So if you guys are interested in looking more professional, being more organized, it helps me get these invoices and billing out much quicker. In turn, we get paid quicker. So if you guys are interested, I can get you a free trial and discount if you go to getjobber.com/reliable HVACR. And another sponsor of the channel now is VETO. VETO Pro Pack, hands down, my favorite tool bags. Now, you guys have seen me rock a whole bunch of VETO bags, and I have nothing but good things to say. If you ever have any issues with them, they do have a 5-year warranty, but the quality is there. You're going to hear me say that a lot about VETO Pro Pack, is the quality, the different kinds of bags, and the thought process that goes into each of these bags. Now that I've seen how they design them, and the stuff they're thinking of putting out, all the new stuff that comes out, Like they really want to cover every aspect or every need of any technician across many different skill trades. Whether you're a tech that carries a laptop, you need a lot of power tools or a lot of hand tools. Like they have a bag for you. Just some of the best bags I've ever had, because I used to rip a lot of the other brands you see at the supply houses or that were there forever. And now VETO Pro Pack, second to none. Never had an issue. Go check them out. All right, guys. In today's episode, we have Mick Richardson from Capital and Coast HVAC. He's over on Instagram. I'll leave all the information that I can. He started a YouTube channel and he's showing, the HVAC side of things. But this dude has been all over the world. He is like a secret agent 007. He is, and he has the accent for it too. He's from Australia, traveled all over the US, and is in New Zealand now. Now, his story is a little different because he was in HVAC, got out of it, and now HVAC is his side gig, which I think is really cool, right? It brought him back full circle to HVAC, and that's what he's focusing on now, and that's kind of the content that he's putting out. So just an interesting conversation and episode all around. So now enjoy the show. Mick, how are you doing?
Good, Adrian. How you
Good.
doing?
You're on a bit of a vacation right now, right? You got a little relief from the work and everything.
Yeah, I did. I managed to escape back to my home country, Australia, Sydney, Australia, and had some good beach time down there at Coogee Beach. I don't know if you know Sydney, but we've got lovely beaches. Caught up with some old friends and family members that are there, which was really, really good. Needed a break.
Yeah.
Needed to get away from work a little bit. I'm burning the candle at both ends here with my regular job and starting off Capital and Coast air conditioning, refrigeration. So
Yeah. And you
it's
have an
yeah,
interesting dynamic there because you're doing, or you have a full-time job that you've been doing for a while, I'm assuming, but you have HVAC as a startup side business, basically, right?
that's correct. Yeah.
Everybody listening is going to hear your accent, and you mentioned
Okay.
were you born in Australia? Is that where you're originally
Yeah.
from?
Yeah. Born and raised in Sydney, Australia.
And then
Uh,
you've been moving around, as from what I
I
understand,
have
right?
been. Yeah, I completed. So I kind of fell into the air conditioning trade, probably like a number of other people. I actually didn't even know it existed
A lot of us
until,
don't.
yeah, um, and completed apprenticeship. I think it was August 14th, 1998. That's a 4-year apprenticeship there in Australia. Um, I worked for a company called Actron Air, which is Australia's probably largest manufacturer of air conditioning systems. So locally made in the country, which is pretty awesome. I sort of got my teeth into commercial, sort of light industrial, with a company called Thomas Clark and Sons,
Mhm.
and then I think early 2000 made the trip over to the US, and I think I'd only planned there to be there for 2 years, but it turned out to be
Yeah.
17. So,
Oh wow.
and yeah, so I lived in San Francisco for 5 years, sort of Orange County for 5, 6 years, Arizona for 2, 3 years, and then Los Angeles for 3 years. So
And at what age did you make that move? Like, how old were you when you came
I
over?
was like 21, 22 when I made that
So,
move over.
was that any type of shock to you, culture shock? Like, was there a lot of
I
adjustments?
Yeah, I tell you what, landing in San Francisco, um, and I remember I had to go get my social security card because I was had a green card, I was a green card holder,
Yeah.
and I remember going down to the Tenderloin district in San Francisco because it was right near where you had to go and pick up your social security card, and I remember thinking, where the hell have I come? Why have I come here? Because that was just shocking.
California, yeah,
It was like,
California in
man,
itself is a big area. Those are big cities and a lot of people there,
yeah,
because that's one thing that I've noticed about myself is I like to be in a small town. I'm in the
yeah,
country area now of where I'm at, and I like that. I like that pace, and we get a little bit of like city stuff, when you go in the city. But every time I go up to a big city, I've traveled a
Yeah.
little bit now. It's very overwhelming for me, and I love coming back to my small town and just being here in my own little corner over here, right? So I can imagine that's a big shock going to California.
Yeah. I think I wasn't prepared to see the homeless and to the extent and sort of
Hmm.
yeah, mental illness and you know that side of San Francisco. Because here in, I guess, in Australia, we saw a lot of movies about San Francisco, and it's always, I guess, it was always showing the other side. So, but don't
The
get me
good
wrong, I
side.
had I had a lovely time in San Francisco,
Yeah.
and was there for 5 years. But I guess initially, back to your question, yeah, that was a bit of a cultural shock. Um, I think, other than that, it was, yeah, an amazing experience. I was working for Pacific Coast Train there in the Bay Area. We did some fantastic projects. The Asian Art Museum was one of them. We did the first
Hmm.
Apple store in
Oh,
town, so that
nice.
was pretty awesome. A lot of sort of universities, and was around. So when the bubble had burst, but we were still doing a lot of work around silicon chip manufacturing and clean room environments. So I got my hands on a lot of large central plant systems. And it was that time when I made the transition from the mechanical into the control side of things, because
Oh, okay.
Train had just released some of their early Tracer Summit software and building automation. And I really wanted to learn more about that, and because you've probably seen them too. You see all the techs walking around with just suitcases and a little backpack, and that's it,
Oh, yeah.
and a couple of hand screws and a laptop.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'll take that. Let's give that a go, and made that transition. And yeah, so I got more immersed into the controls, building
Yeah,
automation.
and I know some people that, that's like a step up, right? Like you're doing all the hard work or the install side or construction,
Yeah,
and then you make your way to that side of things, and it's like it's better for some people, right? Like you said, it's less strain on you and whatnot. Like it's still a lot of work. It's still
sure.
controlling everything that is communicating with each other, and you got to
Yeah,
have the laptop. You got to have all all the
software.
softwares, all the
Yeah,
codes, everything. Like it's a lot of work, but some people like to go to that side of things, and that's why I always tell people when you get into HVAC,
yeah,
there's the control side, there's construction side, there's just you can
yeah.
pick and choose kind of where you want to land in the trade. So
Yeah, and it was really interesting. I think I asked a question to you a while ago. Was their preference on refrigeration and air conditioning in Australia? We get immersed into the whole trade when you do your apprenticeship. So you do refrigeration, you do beer
hmm.
plumbing. I don't know if you do much beer plumbing. You do the beer side, you do the air side, installation, and then air side. And for me, it was I kind of like the aircon kind of side of things, where I know that you
Hmm.
obviously, uh, like the refrigeration side of things.
Yeah.
And that's where I guess the fork in the road happened for me, on that one decision of following the air side. And then
Hmm.
I knew that I didn't want to do too much of the installation initially. After doing my apprenticeship, I thought, I'm kind of more, I like the breakdown, so the warranty breakdown kind of work. But that takes some time to get into, and
Yeah.
familiar, of learning about a system and how it reacts and how to troubleshoot and all that good stuff. But that was, yeah, I guess as
and,
a transition.
and
um,
what was the like what was it that brought you over to the States if you were doing this in Australia?
It was a few things. I was with a partner at the time, and in a bit of a stage where a lot of Australians, because we're so far south and away from Europe or the US, when you come of age, finish, it's almost like you need to do that Mecca and trip, of somewhere. I didn't want to go to the UK because all my mates were there, and I thought, I want to experience something new and something different. My
Hmm.
partner at the time was a US citizen, and
Oh,
that just
okay.
made that channel a little bit easier. Still had to jump through a fair bit of hoops to get that green card, but it opened up a few more doors, and it was, yeah, something new and different. Um, yeah, something that we really wanted to experience. Yeah.
And then in California, you said you were there for about 17 years, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, all in up in the US for 17 years. Yeah.
And then was that What kind of work were you doing? Did you get into controls right away, or did that take a while?
So that the shift to controls came with train, and I moved into that right away.
Oh, okay.
So I landed, I got my social security card, and 2 weeks later, I was working for train. So maybe that was luck, I guess, because I've been trying to get into building automation in Australia, and wasn't successful for different things. I had more of the mechanical background versus the programming background. Um, and but train were willing to give me a shot, and yeah, I was very very thankful for that experience because it opened up a whole new world. And that transition from mechanical to controls was a big jump, but kind of just dived in there, and I had a lot of great mentors. I know you mentioned on your show quite often is connecting with people, and the people in the trade. There's some really awesome people in our trade.
Having a good mentor, having somebody that you can at least ask questions to, like, how do you do this, or why did you do that? That plays a big part into the tech that you become too, because a lot of this is also just building habits, and you don't want to build those bad habits. So
Yeah.
um, it's always good when you can have a good or somebody to learn from that does things or shows you everything and tells you why. So then in California for 17 years, I mean, you didn't stop there. You moved around. Did you move around a few more
Yeah.
times?
Yeah, I did. I got into a whole bunch of different stuff too. Um, so I
Because
come
at
from a
some
musical.
at some point you made a change in your career and everything. So like, what happened after
Yeah.
California?
So California, San Francisco, transitioned to SoCal, Orange County, where I was with Train for about 5 years, and then went down to Orange County, and at that point was needed to find a new job, and I was lucky enough to get hired with Honeywell. So I worked for Honeywell Building Solutions there as a controls technician in La Palma in California, and um, and it was there that really introduced me to energy and utilities, power utilities. So um, I was doing building automation with Honeywell, and a team of another group of Honeywell came to show us some new technologies around how control systems can communicate with power utilities and receive signals to shift and shimmy load when the grid is saturated or constrained in certain ways. And that kind of like was one of those moments, in your life, you sort of sit back and you go, okay, there were three key moments. Well, one was, traveling to the US and meeting a person and getting a job with Train. There were some key moments, and one of them was this moment of learning about this new technology that Honeywell had just acquired, and communication protocol around that actually. And I was fascinated about it. I was like, oh my god, this is really really interesting. This is really really cool. And then I just made a decision probably 2 weeks after that to dive straight into this new group that was exploring a new communications protocol around fully automated demand response. And that was with support from LB&L, different labs that were doing work on sort of government basis. Funding was sourced by the government to develop this fully automated demand response protocol, and that was pretty exciting. And it got me into the world of power and utilities. So, I've gone from an apprentice air conditioning technician who left school early. I was 17 when I left school, and it just followed this career path, and doors opened. And looking back on it now, it was, I kind of think it was pretty lucky because I don't know how I got there,
It just
but
happens.
it just happens, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, there's a few things that have to line up, the stars line, but in essence, you kind of make that future for yourself, don't you? And you come in with a good mindset, positive, want to do good, and yes, I started working with a number of power utilities, even ones right near where you are, in
Oh, really?
developing these demand
Because
response fully
yeah,
automated
because
demand
here in
response.
Texas, the grid has gone down, and
Yeah.
a few we've had issues with it.
Yeah, we've been watching you guys closely, especially through winter. Yeah, we had a pretty rough one too.
And I just heard,
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
if we're
last
getting
winter was shocking.
another
Yeah, yeah.
freeze coming soon, because we
Um,
don't get a lot of winter weather. We get like where it's like 40, 50, and then like
Yeah.
that's our winter. But every
Yeah.
now and then, like that one time that it went
That
down and
cold snap came through. Yeah.
we were without power for almost like 2 weeks or something
That's
crazy,
right.
and it's because it went down into the 20s, and then we had all
Yeah.
this issue with the grid, and they always warn us and tell us, raise those thermostats, and turn everything off and like all that stuff. But essentially, we were, and it was a pretty bad time. But
Yeah.
I was in an apartment at the time, and I was there in like I'm not used to this. I'm in sweats, hoodies, covered, and then I get in my bed and I'm under the blanket and like I was
Yeah.
still cold, like it was freezing. And unfortunately there was other families that I guess, like I said, this never happened, so they probably never knew how to use a generator, a
Yeah.
gas generator and stuff, and they were trying to put them in their houses, and there was some untimely deaths for that. But it's just that we're not used to that. We're not prepared for that. And
Yeah.
it's an issue that we've had with our grid, with our power.
So we would run these particular programs, these energy efficient air conditioning programs. So we also did energy efficiency um, pilot programs that would pay contractors like yourself to go out there, identify issues with the system, go
Okay.
through a certain checklist, and then get rebates. So we would manage those rebates as well. So it was that part of it, and around energy efficiency for small, medium business to commercial,
And
heavy
and
industrial.
those thermostats that like
Smart
the
communicating
were
thermostats,
were
correct. The
sold,
Honeywell ones, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
or not sold, they were given, right? Given
that's
out,
correct.
and
Yes,
then
yeah,
they were controlled by the power company or whatever.
correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's correct. Yeah, so that allowed me to travel around the US a lot and experience, different states. And I guess one thing I did learn was that there's a big difference between California and the different parts of the states. Um, and um, and and I think even something that was consistent though is that they definitely like Australians, and so it was I think it was the accent. I've had a really great experience throughout the US. I found that Canadians tend to get my dry sense of humor a little bit more, but majority, yeah, I had a blast there in the US, especially in Arizona.
I've had a
Arizona,
I've had a few Canadians on the show. I know what you're talking about.
yeah. Yeah, Arizona was cool.
Mm,
And that again, just a different side, and going hunting and experiencing the high desert environment. Um, we talk about some hot days. We had some hot days out there that were like 118, 100,
yeah.
120, uh, and it was yeah, it was pretty intense. You had to be inside, during those months for sure.
It's like, yeah, it's
Um,
all the heat warnings, the heat
yeah,
waves, and you have to be careful with that. We get that a lot too. And we
yeah,
were hitting, like you said, those 117, 118. And then we have a lot of humidity down here too, because I'm by the
oh yeah,
coast. It's like a different kind of heat. So
yeah,
even if the weather forecasts like 108 or something like that, it's actually like 117, 118 because
yeah,
of the humidity. And it's like, I
yeah,
tell people, I'm like, this is real, like hot weather that we deal with down here.
yeah,
So a lot of times, I got to be covered head to
yep,
toe. I wear sleeves, I wear the sun hat, everything like that, and then
yeah,
drink plenty of water and just be
yeah,
careful out there. And that's
yeah. I
why I
don't
don't
think.
want to do attics ever.
Oh yeah, jeez.
So that whole experience you had, and then that's pretty cool that it helped you travel around to
Yeah.
different places and cities like that. So then from there, how did you end up back to is that where you went back to New Zealand after that one?
No, so I left Honeywell after a good period of time, probably 6 to 7 years, I think. And um, I went to I was in Arizona for a little bit, and
Mhm.
then from there to Los Angeles, where I worked with Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, which is the largest, I
Okay.
think, the largest municipality there in LA. And helping develop their demand response program. Just again, another big city,
Yeah.
and I'm probably much like you actually. I don't like crowds, so that was I'm non-neurotypical, so and I prefer being alone, to be honest.
I completely understand. I've always told people I'm like an introvert.
Yeah,
But the thing with me, even when I'm out, like I'm okay with people, but like
yeah,
the crowds get to me
yeah, me
when
too.
people are too close to me.
Yeah,
There's a bunch of things that can trigger. I have no idea what it's called. I don't know. Like I know you said it's called something, but
yeah,
I just don't like it. So I like to
yeah,
be home. I like to be alone and do
yeah,
my own thing. And I have nothing. I can conversate. I can talk to people, and it's a part of the job as well. And that's something that I have to get
yeah,
better at. But it's just the crowds. It's the big cities. Like
yeah.
I'm not a big fan of it. I like being out, and have kind of like that space or that, just get away from everything.
I'd already made a mindset to think about coming home or coming back to Australia at the time.
Yeah.
Um, and my sister had moved to New Zealand about 10 years prior, and my dad had retired fairly recently during that time period, and I felt like I was just away from family and my
Hmm.
nephews and nieces and all that stuff, and I've missed out
Yeah.
on a fair bit of that, and I just felt the calling to come back closer, and I talked, I was talking with my partner. I said, I'm thinking about, what do you think about checking out New Zealand and checking out Australia, and we'll do a bit of a trip just so you can get a feel of what you like. And then we went back to Los Angeles, and
Okay.
um, my family said they really like New Zealand, and so I said, okay, well, for an Australian to go to New Zealand, it's pretty easy. We don't have to jump through many hoops, but to
Hmm.
get my girls through um, and get their the visas and all that relevant stuff, it took some time, but
Yeah.
we just follow the process, and yeah, we did the Tiki tour in 2016, I think, and then sort of relocated 2017 here to
And I
Wellington.
and I hear it's nice out there because I've actually know
Yeah.
a few guys now from New Zealand, yourself and a
Okay.
couple other guys that have commented and messaged me about that. And I
Yeah.
hear it's nice. My girlfriend has mentioned that she would love to
Yeah.
go out there sometime. But that's what I was wondering is how you ended up in New Zealand because you're
Yeah.
from Australia going all through US, and then like I was like, how
Yeah.
did you end up over here? So you had family over there.
Yes, I had family there in Tauranga. Tauranga is what we call the Bay of Plenty. New Zealand is two islands, so there's a North Island and a South Island. It's east of Australia, southeast of Australia, New Zealand, um, and it's beautiful. Like you could probably say you almost feel like you're stepping back in time a little bit here. I know that in Hawaii you have Hawaiian time.
Mhm.
Um, it's from my experience of New Zealand being an Australian, which that comes with its own little riff-raff, right? Because we're probably as because there's a lot big competition in sport. It's much like Canada and the US, whether it's in ice hockey or baseball,
Yeah.
so here it's rugby and cricket, right? So,
Yeah.
um, and yeah, Kiwis and Australians, we all get on pretty well, and it's a beautiful country. It's great for raising kids. I have two girls. I have one who's autistic, Mia, who's 6, and I have a 21-year-old who turned 21 on New Year's Eve. And
Oh,
they're doing great. But it's very family focused. You know, your most work environments are all you spend time with your family, and so it's that kind of thinking. So it's a lot more relaxed. It's away from the hustle and bustle of big city life. I live in Wellington, which is the capital city. I live 15-minute drive to the heart of the city. It takes me 15 minutes, and if I could turn my camera around, so 15 minutes out of the city, out of the capital city, I'm looking at sheep on hills. And there's a beautiful bay. It's pretty hard to beat, to be honest with you. And just the lifestyle, kids. Obviously you have a daughter who's special needs. There's a lot of assistance there as well for my partner. And I guess I could talk about that journey a little bit too. So yeah, 2017 we moved here, and my youngest Mia was born, and we've been here ever since.
And you
She's
went
the
there
first
and
Kiwi of the family. So,
yeah,
yeah,
that's awesome. So you went there doing, and that's great. Like, family should come first. That's what you have to base a lot of your decisions on, right? So that's good that
yeah,
you were able to get accommodated there in New Zealand. But when you went there, you were still doing the whole power
yeah.
grid
So
operator.
yeah, that's right. So I was lucky enough, through my LinkedIn profile connections and
I
mentors.
just started mine, so I could build that up too.
Okay, yeah, that I wasn't quite sure whether I could do the same type of work that I had been doing in the US in New Zealand.
Okay.
I didn't know it existed, and
Yeah.
I stumbled across Transpower, which is the national grid owner operator. So their role is they coordinate generation to meet demand, and the other side of the business is that we're stewards of the grid. We manage and maintain the grid. So. Uh, um, there's a few other things that we do as well, but in essence, we're the national grid owner operator. I reached out to my manager, who's absolutely phenomenal, by the way. I have to say that. But he had done a tour through the US, and I looked at the Transpower website, and I saw they had a demand response program which they were offering, and I thought, oh, that's really interesting. And I just looked at the name and sent an email, and I realized that he had connected to a whole bunch of my mentors in the US about a year prior. And so I just, my dad said the squeaky door always gets the oil, um, and I just sent a message and just said, hey, I'm thinking about coming to New Zealand. I've done demand response, and here's who I've worked for, and it'd be really great to do something there. And we just created a relationship, long distance, and I had, I think, 4 video interviews for the position, and I was lucky enough to get hired before we made the official move from the US to New Zealand to work with Transpower. And I knew I was going to be the one that was going to have to dig deep for a while, because my partner was pregnant, and
Yeah.
you know how that goes, mate. And it
Yeah.
was, yeah. So I had the responsibility there, and but yeah, I've been and still with Transpower. So it's been over 6-7 years that I've been with Transpower in managing and running their demand response program. My formal role is flexibility services manager. The next transition I'll talk about is the COVID lockdown, which affected people very, very
Yeah, I
differently.
was gonna ask you because
Yeah,
I know we messaged back and forth a little bit. So
yeah,
that happened, and how did that affect you? And then, I mean, you can go into how you essentially
yeah.
started up
Got into it.
another business.
Yeah. So, um, so my daughter was born. Mia was born in 2017. Everything was going gun ho great with Transpower. Then COVID hit. 2021? I was somewhere around there. Um, and
Middle of 2020.
yeah, middle of 2020. Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it made the news there, but New Zealand was one of the early countries to go into a full lockdown. I don't know if you heard about that, but really, when COVID, because the size of our nation, we're 5 million, we're around about 5 million, we're very small and comparatively, and there was concerns about the health system and that being overrun and people not being able to get the real help that they need to survive this. And it was so the whole unknown right around COVID, and so yeah, our prime minister at the time, Jacinda Ardern, decided to go into a lockdown, which prevented anyone pretty much entering, leaving the country, and
Yeah.
then the islands were also separated and locked down too, so you couldn't move around. You're basically in your home, and
Yeah,
that
I
was
remember
that.
that.
Man, that was a big change for us, because I was in the office, 5 days a week typically, and uh, And so then we had to, set up. I didn't have a study set up at the time, so I had to go set up a study and get different equipment to make it all work from home, and very supported by Transpower and getting everything sort of up and going, which was great. But the that was the first lockdown was pretty hard, and just trying to establishing rules around the house, and you probably maybe you found it too, was like separating
Yeah.
work and family life became like this
Oh yeah.
blur, and I
Well,
totally sucked at it.
for us, we stayed relatively busy. We had a few, days off here and there while everybody decided, like what was essential, what and all that when we got our little papers that we could travel because like the whole lockdown, we weren't able to go out of the house and stuff,
Yeah,
or there was like a curfew and different things. Like there was a whole bunch of stuff when that happened. But being in what we do, we're in the food service industry. Like
yeah,
restaurants were still serving drive through and
yep,
curbside and all that. So like we still had work. They brought
yep,
us back relatively quickly. The thing
yeah,
I had to adjust to, now I work from home
yep,
as far as like being a business owner and doing the invoicing and billing and that kind of stuff, right?
yeah,
But my son had to stay with me at that point because
yeah,
I had a whole issue and COVID, like it came out of nowhere and it just kind of
yeah,
derailed a lot of stuff because I had just went through a divorce. And
mm,
then, like I said, I was during that freeze as well because we had that around that time, like a year later. Um, all that was happening while I was in an apartment trying to get back on my feet.
mm,
And my son stayed with me that whole COVID time, and I
yeah,
had to deal with the home because I work for myself. I can make time, right, if I need to, right?
yeah,
That's the benefit
sure,
of being your own boss and stuff. But I had to adjust to that whole thing, homeschooling and stuff, because I had to, they were doing that whole virtual thing on the laptop
yeah,
for school, and then like I'm there trying to get my work done, travel here, drop him off with his grandparents, go to work, come back and do the homework, and like that part of it was ridiculous. So I can imagine
yeah,
somebody that has to adjust like their workstation now being working from home, like that was probably a big thing for you to work
yeah,
around because you worked at an actual place. I had the luxury of I do HVAC. I don't have a place of business to go to. I just go fix things and I come back home. I mean, it was
yeah,
easier for me on that aspect.
yeah. So we had told that we had to be home, work from home.
Yeah.
Uh, it was just before actually my youngest Mia was diagnosed with autism. So and it was like, okay, your daughter's autistic, but we couldn't, because we're locked down. We couldn't attend all the therapies and all the
Oh yeah.
the type of things that you need to do, or educate yourself,
Mhm.
or support on,
Yeah,
and so
because
that we had that
those
that was hard.
doctor
Yeah.
calls and doctor visits were very
Oh,
weird during that
they
time.
were weird, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, pull up to the car in front of the medical center, and you just had to stay in
Yeah.
your car, and it was all weird. We had a tracer. Did you have an app? So we had an application we had on our
I
phone,
think I think we had
sh
something.
which showed all the relevant information around your booster shots and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, and also your travel, that if once those restrictions started to level off, you could move around more, and I had to fly around a few times, like the different
Mhm.
parts of the country, and you had to have that type of certificate to show before you got on a flight.
Yeah, it
It
was
was
weird
pretty
times.
rough, I got to be honest with you. And then on top of that, my daughter had just started university, my oldest daughter,
Yeah.
Leia. So she had moved out of home. So the first time out of home into a hall.
Yeah.
And in Wellington, they were one of the first halls to get shut down because it was one of the first signs of COVID going through the hall. And anyway, so that was not great experience for her. I mean, it should have been an awesome experience, her first year at uni and living away from
Yeah.
home and all that kind of stuff. And it was just not exactly what the doctor ordered, for sure.
Yeah, and that's why I
But
mean it derailed a lot of stuff during that time, like it was crazy.
yeah, the second we had two lockdowns here, so we sort of came out of that first one, and things started to get going again, and all of a sudden it flared up, and we got
Yeah.
locked down again. And it was the second one. I said to my partner, Jerry, she's been awesome. She's phenomenal. We were thinking about getting a ducted system for my house, right?
Okay.
And I was like, I should just put it in myself. Why can't I just do it myself? I don't at this stage, I've sort of all my tools. I wasn't even thinking about aircon much, you know,
Mm-hmm.
at all. So all my tools are gone. I sold
Yeah.
them before moving and all that stuff. I had nothing, and I said, well, I'm pretty sure I could do it myself. I just have to go and get some hand tools and get some things, and I could probably borrow bits and pieces from people I know, vac pump and gauges and that kind of stuff. And um, I know an electrician, obviously working for Transpower. We know we're in the power industry,
Yeah.
um, and so initially I had a couple of companies give me quotes because I wanted to see what the
Okay.
ballpark was, and I looked at the
Yeah.
quotes. And I'm like, holy crap! Um,
Yeah.
I bet I'll give this a go myself.
That's how I am too, because we have an old R22 system,
Oh yeah,
and we thought we were gonna need a new system, and I got quotes and stuff because I don't like doing residential work in general.
yeah,
And I was like, no, I think I want to do it myself, but we haven't come to that yet. We were able to kind of fix it up. But yeah,
yeah.
like at that point, you're just like, why can't I? Why don't I just do it myself? You know?
Yeah, so I saw these quotes come in. I'm like, man, these are expensive, and getting any trades is pretty expensive here in New Zealand. And I should say in Australia too. It's expensive. Trades do quite well here in this part of the world. Um, and it was that time, obviously COVID lockdown, thinking about doing something for the house, where I started to jump on YouTube and see these channels. I don't know if your channel was out, but it was definitely Zach. Zach's channel, HVAC Quality HVAC, was there, and I think HVAC Tactical Ben. I started to just get plugged into that, um, and it started to inspire me about thinking about the trade. And I was talking to my partner. I said, "Oh, we should really think about doing a little side business." And at that stage, my partner was thinking about going back to work as well after being a full-time caregiver for Mia. Mia was transitioning to school, and I thought, well, that could be a nice ease way. Jerry could look after the back end of the books, and I could get out there and do the work and install. And so we started to talk
Yeah.
about it more, and I said, well, if I can't install it in my own house, and I can't do it, I'm not be able to do it for anybody else.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know if you've experienced this, man, but you're doing your own house is always, it's just I had a shallow roof, and it was just hard, getting up in the attic. It was narrow,
Well,
tight,
like I don't think
just the
anybody likes
worst roof. And I'm like,
I don't think anybody likes working on their own equipment in general, their own house.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I always tell people, like, if you go to an HVAC tech's house, I mean, they're probably not up to the standards that they do for other people, you know. So there's
yeah.
that whole thing.
So I put a ducted system in, and that really that changed being at home a lot. We here in New Zealand, we don't a lot of the housing that went in the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, so even up to the 80s, weren't that great insulated, and so typically it's quite cool here in New Zealand. I don't know, I haven't talked about the weather patterns much, but we get the four seasons. It does get cold here in New Zealand, especially on the South Island. We have amazing skiing. And a big alpine range on the South Island. If you've seen Lord of the Rings and all that stuff, a lot of that stuff was filmed there. Um, it's a phenomenal, beautiful place. But yeah, we do get pretty wild winters here. Typically, mild summers, cold winters. So peak time for air conditioning here is winter time in the business. So,
Oh,
um, but just having the house warm and being able to walk around and be comfortable all year round, it just made it. I don't know why I didn't do it sooner, man. But anyway, you live and you learn, and
mhm.
there are other priorities that were sort of getting in the way of all that. But yeah, I'm so glad that we did it, and also just to rekindle that fire, of getting back into the trade and the HVAC again for me personally. Hearing your channels and getting dialed in and just sort of immersing, because we're a long way away from you guys, but I learned so
Mhm.
much, not only from the US channels, but also, channels in Japan. A lot of installers I follow in Japan, in Australia. I don't know if you know Mitch Atwood there from Merrick Services. He specialized in Dakin installations, but he has a great channel. And he's become a mentor for me too. So we did trade school together. He was a few years younger than me, but yeah, it's just sort of plugging myself in, getting some knowledge, and getting excited again about the trade. You know, my life had taken me a different journey,
Yeah.
but you know, I love it. Yeah, we've been in business now for a year. You know, I'm
Okay.
still a bit of a weekend warrior,
Mm-hmm.
and after hours kind of. You know,
Yeah.
most of the stuff I do is sort of at the moment it's predominantly residential. However, I've got some commercial customers sort of specialize in server and data rooms,
Okay.
sort of tight air conditioning environments. But it's all word of mouth. I don't do any
Yeah.
advertising, and it's great.
So then
You
that
know,
whole that you wanting to put a system in your house is what kind
yeah,
of kickstarted that, and then
yeah,
from there, did you just get into opening a business like for?
yeah, yeah, pretty
Okay.
much. It
And
was
then
just going down the path.
how hard was it for you to start? Because a lot of people, that like you're talking about
Yeah,
working weekends and long hours, like that's how a lot of us
yeah,
start.
yeah,
And it's like a side business or side work, side jobs.
that's right.
And then you go out there and do your own thing. Like, but it sounded like you went out and kind of started the business right away. Like, how hard was it to
Yeah.
get customers and stuff like that?
Well, I guess I have a trapped audience with Transpower stuff.
Oh,
So,
okay.
um, that's great. No, I'll be honest. It's a trade here that we're so short on trades, and so the work comes. I'm blessed that I have a full-time job at the moment. You know, I couldn't make the full transition and dive straight into Capital and Coast without support of working for the current job at the moment with Transpower. So
Hmm.
I'm able to pick and choose the work that I'm doing.
Yeah.
I do it in the time that suits me. Uh, the challenges goes around with things that may fail under warranty or service, and so
Okay.
um, I find the clients that I have are phenomenal. You know, they typically pay the same day, if not the following day. I have customers that pay me even before I do the job, even before I do the
That's a good
install.
one. Yeah, that's good.
Which is a phenomenal. Um, I typically stay away from doing new build, like building and construction. I don't,
Hmm.
I don't, I don't do much of that. But it's just, yeah, re- uh, referrals that have fed into to establishing Capital and Coast HVAC, and yeah, mate, I've got great customers, eh? And they, they leave little reviews on Google, and you know what I have been actually. You inspired me. Actually, I can honestly say you inspired me to do this. It was when I do an install. So when I do a mini split heat pump install, uh,
Okay.
any sort of breakdown warranty work, I take my camera and I video and I create like a short reel, probably 30-second reel after I've done my editing. And
Sure.
in the evening when I'm doing the write up or doing the invoice, it takes me half an hour to get my smartphone out, quickly bring those videos and pictures into an app, and I create
Hmm.
like a little story with the music. And because a lot of the time, as you know, like your customers, they can't see what you're working on, they can't see the work that you've done. Um, and I tell you what, that's paid dividends for me. Like, so every job I do, given that I've got the time now, I'm not slammed back to back jobs, but it's just, so I send that with the invoice and bam, I get paid. Like, and they're
Like
not
the
as great as your videos, man. Don't get me wrong. I've got a lot to learn. I don't have all the tech stuff, but actually, I could probably I need to get some tips from you. To be fair.
I'm an open book. There's a lot of guys that you can ask, like,
Oh, cool.
for anything. Like, all the guys that like the guys that I have on nights or any of those other ones, like they're up. We talk about that constantly. Like when I talk to other
Yeah,
content creators, it's like, I'll ask them how they did something, or we'll talk about different things. But
yeah,
that's a good point, because like back in the day when I started and I did work, right? Like you said, the customer doesn't get to see the
yeah,
work all the time, right? And then my thing was always like, well, do you really want to come up on the roof with me, and I'll show you? And like 99% of them will say, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
But then they question you, right? They still want to know
Yeah.
what happened and this and that. So like once we were able to start using our phones, like I've done that too. And I tell people it's even good for business, take before and
Yeah.
after photos and stuff like that. Cause
Yeah.
visually that's good, for your business, like whether you do a website or you do social media, whatever it is, wherever you want to post those, if you want to go as far as, like you said, editing them and kind of making them fun for the customer to watch, or anybody that wants to watch it. But yeah, that's a good point, because the people that I had from mechanical environments had talked about that, because they use they use an app too. They use Company Cam, and they
Okay.
will upload photos, videos, and they'll explain during the video like what they found and what they recommend. So there's a lot, and our phones can do so much now. Like all that
Yeah.
information can go on there. Just like, I mean, I don't want to talk too much about Job or anybody, but like I use Jobber to write all my
Yeah.
notes. It's all on my phone. I take pictures. I do everything. Like
Yeah.
I had to learn. I learned that really quick, that you need to write everything down.
Yeah.
Everything has to be in writing or a picture or something, because
Yeah.
they're always going to ask you or tell you, you didn't mention that before. You
Yeah.
didn't do this or didn't do that. I'm like, no, it's right here, right? There's photos, there's writing. Just make sure to cover yourself. I used to get in trouble for being on my phone, right? And they like when I
Yeah.
was younger, I started in my early 20s doing this, right? And I was a helper. And sometimes,
Yeah.
yeah, I would be texting or whatever, but sometimes I would be texting my dad, because my dad got into texting around the time we started the business, right? And I was like, okay, like reporting back to him and stuff. And then I used to look up manuals and all that, as like, the phones got better. And I remember I got some managers, because I was working at restaurants, ended
Yeah.
up calling my dad and being like, oh, this kid over here, he's always on his phone and this and that. And then he's like, well, he would joke around with him like, take it up with him, he's the owner or whatever. But
Yeah.
his response was always like, well, he's either reporting to me or he's doing something for work. And
Yeah.
that's a little bit more normal now, like you said, because we have all these equipment now that requires like an
Yeah.
app to check everything, or you can be wireless and all that.
Equipment that we're working on now is so tech. Is so we have thermostats that I communicate to.
Do you
Um,
control, like, do you offer like remote controlling? I don't know what it's called, because
I
I
yeah, I
think
don't
uh
I don't
I think
I've
mechanical
saw
environment says that she
yeah,
checks on the thermostats and kind of does some stuff remotely. And I've
yeah,
been to a couple of customers that their thermostats are up super high, and they're like, oh, it's because somebody controls them. Somebody like remotely does that. And I don't see
yeah.
that too much.
On the building automation side of things for offices and stuff like that, yes, yes. So you can remote in typically and troubleshoot remotely. Um, and then instruct either people to go out there to look at certain mechanical equipment that may be failing or having issues. That's quite common, but for I'm seeing some stuff come into more around the residential homes, which is really interesting around home automation, which
Oh yeah.
uh, y- um, which allows both the homeowner to have their own smart mobile application to schedule, turn the system on and off, and geofencing and all that good stuff. But the the app, sorry, the thermostat or the equipment now can communicate. It might be low power Bluetooth to your phone as well for a service technician who's got the right manufacturer servicing app, and so you can actually be remote, walking around and checking things about the system or troubleshooting on site.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. That I typically use. I have Fujitsu as another mid-range and Panasonic for my high range of equipment that I
Okay.
install and put in.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's predominantly heat pumps here in New Zealand. So they're very mini split heat pumps, high wall,
Hmm.
a floor console, a ceiling console, under ceiling, or ducted system.
Is that something you've seen there for a while now? Because
I've
like
seen it
I've
start
talked
to,
about it.
yeah,
I've talked about it a few times, where growing up, everything was gas here. Like
Okay,
that's
yeah,
all I knew,
yeah,
right? And then like
yeah,
once I got and moved out and I started, actually renting and getting apartments or now in a house, everything or everybody has switched to electric. So we're all
yeah,
going electric, but I honestly want to say it's because we hardly ever use our heating and stuff,
yeah.
and they go electric, and then like everybody likes like the electric stoves just because it's like a glass countertop or
Induction,
whatever,
yeah, yeah,
and it's they just want to get rid of a gas bill, I believe. But everything here is electric. I've seen less than a handful of heat pumps. That's new to
yep,
me, and
yep,
I've even looked into putting in an inverter in this house when I mentioned that we are going to upgrade
yeah.
the system, just because that seems to be the trend going forward.
Yeah, and it also this touched on another topic, around electrification, uptake of electrification to meet these renewable targets in 2050, which is, I know the US is also following that, and the
Yeah.
changes that's had and the impact to equipment manufacturers as well as gases. I don't know how many gas bottles you carry around in your truck, but um, but uh, you know, this is only my personal opinion. It's not like, yeah, it's not easy. We here in New Zealand have a highly renewable grid. Um,
Mhm.
is on a good day we can be 98, 90%, 99% renewable. On an average day we're 86, 87% renewable. We have a lot of hydro schemes on the South Island and wind. We just put on our first a large solar array, and
Mhm.
connected that to the grid. Big batteries that are coming on, so large megawatt batteries they've connected to the grid. So, and we're quite lucky, we're island nation, and um, but yeah, there's this strong push to change, and you see that in the equipment type, and you see that in the technology that's going in the equipment. I have mini split wall mount system here, which is an inverter, and I have a ducted
Mhm.
system upstairs, or both inverter. The thing that you need to be challenged about with is the COP, making sure that it can work in the environment or the microclimate that you have on the lowest
Yeah.
potential possible day, as well as some of the hottest days, um, and
And I've
and
talked with
size
other
it correctly.
guys
Yeah,
about that. Like Curtis had talked about putting, or he upgraded his system with a Gree heat pump inverter, whatever it is,
yeah,
and he didn't put any backup heating or anything. He's like, it actually works fine just
work
as
through.
is. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I feel like that would be in a similar situation here because we never get
yeah,
like honestly, I tell people here in Texas or where I'm at, once it gets cold out, like I mentioned, 50, 40 maybe,
yeah,
we just nobody just or everybody just turns off their AC and leaves it off, cracks open the windows, and then we get free air conditioning because all we care about is like air conditioning because it's always hot here.
yeah. Okay.
So that's how we see it.
I was looking at some stats. This is 3, 4 weeks ago, before the break, the
Hmm.
Christmas break, and I think they're up around the 2.7 million, 2.8 million heat pumps that have been sold into New Zealand from like 2014. So, um, and from 2014, I think on, they also happened to have, by requirement, they had to have what we call a demand response enabled device standard embedded logic in those heat pumps. So if they had the right type of switch and controlling mechanism, those heat pumps could load shed and do load shifting as well, if required. Um, it takes a little bit more tech in between the system and
Hmm.
let's say a utility to trigger that, but the logic, the program logic's there. So for instance, for my Fujitsu wall mount that's in the back room there, that
Yeah.
has as a PCB board installed, what we call a demand limiting board, in the outdoor unit. And then there's another controller which sits in line with that unit, that triggers certain amount of inputs, closes relays, and as the different relay structure closes, determines on what mode that system moves to. So it's more around duty cycling in that particular standard. The stuff that I'm doing, more around the fully automated demand response, is more system to system communication. So that's as a set protocol, or we come up with a set logic. It might be space temperature increase a certain amount or decrease a certain amount to bring relief or prevent the compressor from spinning up
Yeah.
for a certain period of time. And we do that automated.
I don't have any stats or anything on our grid or anything, but it just worries me a little bit because they push electrification so much,
Oh
and
yeah,
they give you rebates, they give you all these benefits of switching over, and then like especially with the electric vehicles, right? Because I'm not gonna lie,
oh yeah,
I was in the market for a truck for a while, and
yep,
and everybody has like the Teslas and stuff like that. I thought
sure,
those are neat. And then when I was looking into trucks, the Lightning came out, the
yeah.
Ford electric
Ford
vehicle,
F-150, yeah,
and I was very interested in doing that. But I'm like, man, if our grid goes out or if we have any issues with our electricity, like because I was thinking about using it for work, just
yeah,
because of the area. I think I could get away with the range on it and stuff. But
sure,
I was like, man, I don't know if I want to be stranded. So I don't know,
yeah,
like I know it's different everywhere. Like
yep,
you being where you're at and being in the states traveling
yeah,
across,
yep.
I don't know, did you see anything that you, or was there anything you noticed about grid to grid, when you would oversee these different places?
Yeah, you talk about the national grid or grids throughout the US, the large towers that you see that
Hmm.
transmit the energy through and distribute that to your local utilities there. That infrastructure's been there for many, many years. Like um, and and as we go and enhance, I know for the work that we do on our grid, we have smart substations, and we can visualize them and get a lot of information back in real time. And um, um, we we do everything to save the asset. So
Yeah.
if you have that cold snap day and you're seeing a local area network that's just peaking, and it's hitting the threshold of our substation, we have pretty strict protocols we have to follow.
Okay.
Following what the electricity authority has guided us to do, but we've got these strict protocols before we open circuit, right? And that's a blackout. Uh,
Yeah.
it's and it's probably the worst thing to happen, because we have a saying in Transpowers that we keep the lights on. That's the main thing. We keep the lights on, right? But when it goes dark, bad things typically happen when things go dark, um, and it's not good for the press. Everything comes, and so it's how do we get to this place of encouraging the uptake of electrification, and put the mindset of if you agree with it or not, just put that to one side. Like for me
Hmm.
personally, if it's energy that we're creating out of the natural resources that we can leverage and utilize, for me that's a good thing. If I can prevent coal-fired boilers from starting up, I think that is a good thing, and that's what's kept me doing the job I'm doing right now. I'm creating
Hmm.
these virtual power plants in the cloud, you know, that don't necessarily use gas or coal to generate, and so um, uh, I think it's a few things that I've seen here that are probably somewhat similar. We've got a large uptake of electrification, a large movement happening to electric vehicles in transportation, so bus services, um, trucking, like the
Like,
whole
yeah,
lines.
everything
Yeah,
is transitioning.
um, everything's moving that way, and so also the shift away from coal or gas-fired stuff as well. So that's all moving away too, which means that those particular companies, those particular customers are moving to electric options. So so there's that large step increase in demand, that we have to build to, or we have to learn to manage around. That's the similar issue of what the other countries are also facing as well. How do we coordinate these electric vehicles that they can do multiple things, EVs, right? So you can use them to power your home if you want, if you need them. If they've got the right technology, the right smart charger, they
Yeah,
can
that's
power your
that's
home,
what I
right?
was looking into. Yeah.
If you're lucky enough and you can afford to put solar array on your roof, solar PV, and maybe you've got an EV vehicle as well, um, you can, if you're home and the vehicle's plugged in and it's sunny, the sun's putting it straight into the vehicle, or if you're not home, it's putting into a battery that you can use later. But
Mhm.
here in New Zealand, it's really the early adopters people that can afford to have, or, they can pay for this technology to put in their house, can actually take advantage of that, right? And there's not a lot of rebates happening here in New Zealand, unlike some of the things that you probably see and are used to in the US. It's there's a fair bit of subsidies that are going around to help buy down that cost.
Yeah.
Things here, like you talked about the Lightning, the Ford F-150 Lightning. It's uber expensive here in New Zealand if we were thinking about getting them here. Same thing like anything anything EV, is around the 60, 65, 70, $80,000
Mhm.
New Zealand
Yeah.
dollars. And that's expensive, and we've recently purchased a car for my partner, and I was right on the fence. I'm like, man, here I am, what, wish I could purchase an EV, but I just don't.
Yeah, I was in the same boat because, like I said, I was looking into EVs, and I wanted a truck,
Yeah,
because I went from a car to an SUV, and
yeah,
then I finally was like, I just need a truck, right? And
yeah,
it's same thing. Like I processed all that through my head and stuff, and I'm like, at the end of the day, gas is more reliable, efficient for now. There's too much work to get into the electric
yeah,
vehicle side, and
yeah,
the cost, right? Like everything's going to cost a lot when they first come out. I mean, that's with everything. So you got to factor all that stuff in. It's just,
yeah,
they're trying to push us towards that. They're trying to
yeah,
that's like the
yeah.
trending thing. Eventually we'll get there.
I haven't come to the happy medium spot just yet. I'm still wrestling it through. But for the trade, if I guess back on the HVAC side of things, it's a different challenge, eh? Like it's keeping up with the technology, it's, keeping up with how to work on the systems that have got this built-in tech. That might be doing load shifting and load shaving, might be a distributed energy resource that is being used by multiple parties. Not just the utility. There could be a retailer in the middle that's playing around with it too to earn some money for the customer. So and then you turn up with your gauges, and then the system's not running and it's blinking these lights, and you go, oh, it's a PCB board, or it's not running. But
Hmm.
in efforts, it's a utility that might be using it. So it's that awareness and being able to on that continual path of learning, and that's why I find your channel and others really valuable to the industry, because you talk to so many people. You've got a good finger on the pulse of what's happening out there, and you've got a platform to share that with techs like me, and so I find that so valuable. And here I live miles away, mate, in little Wellington, New Zealand. That I've connected with you in Texas, and both on this channel and Nights of HVAC, and it's just you create that brotherhood, I guess, that connection, and yeah, it's pretty important. I think it's pretty special. And then taking that knowledge and sharing it with the next generation. I think in my life I've had some great experiences. I've had a lot of hard lessons learnt, and a few bruises to share and go through. But it's, I guess, where I'm in the stage of my life right now. I just want to give back to the community of HVAC, and pass on the knowledge that I've learned, or things that I've experienced to others. And that's where I get the passion. That's where my joy comes. It's being able to talk like we are on this platform and just share about stuff. And you know yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
super
awesome.
important, eh? Yeah,
And I appreciate, the kind words and all that, but I mean, I try to share what I can, and you've probably seen me struggle with the new wave of having
yeah,
boards in everything, right? Because I deal with it
yeah,
in refrigeration, and it was an
yeah,
adjustment, and it's stuff that I have to learn, as it comes in. Because around here we were very, like, we're the last to get everything. Like we were still mechanical across the
yeah,
board, and I'm still new to all this, the boards, the communications, all this other stuff.
yeah,
And I've I've made videos where I'm having issues where like a walk-in cooler or something, and the
yeah,
board gives out. That's the only bad thing when if that
yeah,
that's the direction we're going into, is
Yeah.
I can't bypass something. I can't replace something mechanical. It like if the board gives out
Yeah.
and there's an issue there. So I've had this conversation with other people where, like I said, we have to learn new things and
Yeah.
new ways of doing things. And we also have to kind of be a little bit better about electronics. Like I've seen guys go out there and they have a bad board, but you know what? They
Yeah.
learn to solder and make these connections on the back circuits and stuff. And that's a new skill that we're gonna have to incorporate. I feel like HVAC already does a lot. You know, we do
Yeah.
our own thing. We do plumbing. We do a little
Yeah.
building, constructing, and all this other stuff. And now we're gonna have to get into the electronic side of like working on boards and then being able to fix those boards instead of replacing. Because I know everybody wants to replace,
Mm.
and sometimes it's more cost effective to just replace a part. But
Yeah.
with new technology, there's going to be new skills and new things that you have to learn. So it's just,
Yeah.
that it, and that's what I do like. I mean, sometimes it can get annoying, the issues we have to
Yeah.
deal with, but that's what I do like about the trade or the HVAC trade is we do a little bit of everything, and there's always something new to learn and work on, and a vast variety of equipment that you see because not every manufacturer does things the same way. I mean, they might do the same thing, but they do it in a different way and have different parts and things like that. And that's what I like about it.
I think, and you've probably seen this, getting those parts after a system's been in maybe 5 or 6 years, isn't, it can be very challenging.
Or
You
even
know,
even
I've
right
got,
away because a lot of
yeah,
these were still under warranty. And
yeah.
it's like, you got to wait a few weeks to get that board out. And I'm like, no, I need it now.
I talked to my mate Mitch in Australia, um, and um, and he's had all different types of issues with boards for the units that he's working on, and in some cases, some of his customers have waited the whole summer period with,
Yeah.
been without air conditioning in hot
I've
Sydney,
heard of
Australia,
that.
without
Yeah.
for months, because the
Hmm.
parts weren't in the country. And I've seen others that will bypass like soft starts, because they can't get the part in, and they have to remove it and get it up and running for a customer, and it's just gone back to a hard start. Like things
Yeah.
like that. You try to work around it, but it's hard. And in some of those things you can't. The poor customer is on the other end. They've got a really flashy unit, but
Yeah.
no spare parts. You can't do much, can you?
No, I've had
Yeah.
my fair share of going up to a unit and finding, bad boards here and there. And it's like, all right, I can bypass most of this, right? Like,
Yeah.
especially if it's not super complicated. I can
Yeah.
bypass most of this, get you by until we get the board out, right?
Yeah.
Um, and and they'll love you for that. They as long as you
Yeah.
get them by. But there are certain situations because more and more of the unit it relies on a motherboard or some
Yeah.
sort of communication. Like it, the further along we get into it, the more they rely
Yeah.
on these things, and more things are tied into it. So yeah, I've heard of those unfortunate events where they're waiting weeks or months on end for
Yeah.
um, parts and stuff. Because I had one a couple years ago. We didn't end up keeping the customer because the guy that got us in got a promotion, left, and they
Yeah.
had a buddy that did AC, and they got them in. But I went to
Yeah.
this job, and it's like the coil was in rough shape,
Yeah.
and it wasn't that old. It was I don't remember the year of it, but it was a Lennox Prodigy unit, fancy, nice. Everything else looked really good on it, but the
The coil's gone.
aluminum coil was trashed, leaked out, everything. So I tried to go get a part, or I tried to go get the coil, trying to get you know the cheapest repair we can do, and then
Yeah.
that coil is not available for a couple months, and this is
Yeah.
dead in the middle of summer. So I drove by there not too long ago, and I noticed that they just ended up it was more cost effective for them just to get new units
Swap at the unit.
at
Yeah.
that point because
Yeah.
why wait a few months for a coil when you can just get a new unit
Yeah.
popped in. So that's a
Yeah.
whole issue that we're having. It's like what's more cost effective, right?
Yeah.
Waiting for a part, getting a new unit, or replacing versus
Yeah.
repairing. That's the age old
It makes
you
your
know
quotes really challenging, eh? I mean, that's what I'm finding now that I'm on the other side of the fence and having my own business. It's,
yeah.
when you're sitting down, and I typically do it at night when my kids are asleep, and when I've
Yeah.
got my I've given my dad time to them, the best
Yeah.
part of my dad time. And I'm sitting there writing. I'm like, man, I'm writing an essay here. Like it's like to replace the system. It says, oh, but if you just if you're thinking about replacing this, it's this. But and then you find out it's 2 months, 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
And so I think recently I've done an estimate. I had to do three estimates for a customer to give 3 different scenarios, and that took me like 45 minutes to go through and write that up and then price it. And yeah, I guess that's an area of work that I'm still learning on. I use a different accounting software here, which does the billing and overseeing operations of that small business.
Yeah.
And it's
Anything helps,
man,
because like once I
it all
went
helps. I
digital,
tell you. Yeah,
yeah, once I went digital, because I'm the one that
yeah,
gets stuck. It's my dad's company, and I help him run it. I get stuck with
yeah,
all that invoicing, billing, and that side of the work.
yeah.
I'm sure for you it was a transition there too, just going to the
Oh
business
yeah,
side of things, because
yeah.
there's things that you don't think about as a
Oh
tech,
yeah,
then
yeah,
you got to start thinking about as a business owner. And like you said, the quoting,
yeah,
that you got to give them options, but then sometimes things come up, or things
yeah,
change, and you
yeah,
you try to give them that good, better, and best quote, and
yeah,
it's like you got to be honest with them. You got to recommend what you recommend, but
yeah,
sometimes it's just like, I'll just give you a new unit, you get the warranty, and you get
yeah.
everything covered. Because I'm
Yeah,
dealing with that a lot right now.
oh yeah, yeah. I do. So my approach to that is, I've just adopted it. It's gold, silver, bronze, just like the Olympic medals, gold, silver, and bronze.
Yeah.
And here's my main recommendation, and here's another option, and then here's the other option. Um, and you know that seems to have gone over pretty well. And but it does take time, sitting down, working out those numbers, and then calling, your trade shops to get an understanding of where things are and timing. And um, sometimes I feel like also it's sort of understanding your customer, because sometimes your customers
Mhm.
just want to know what the deal is. They don't need the full essay, and I tend to navigate more writing a full essay and then realizing, oh shit, I've probably put too much down in here. These guys would just want to know how much it's going to cost.
Yeah.
And so I've learned that way as well, of okay, how much information, and then how much is too much information for yeah. So it's that fine balance
I've
that I'm
always
learning it.
I've always struggled with that, because when I started, I would talk too much, or like you said, write
Yeah,
down too much, and they would just be staring at me like, I don't understand any of that. Like, what do you recommend? And then I tried
yeah,
dumbing it down, trying to get simple, and I'm like, and then I started getting customers that wanted more
breakdown.
information, because
Yeah,
they
yeah,
were more aware of their equipment and stuff. So yeah, you have to find that balance, because I've had to do that where it's like, well, get straight to the point, do this, or recommend something, and then, oh, if you want me to explain, I'll explain exactly what I found, and talk you through it.
I've learnt the hard way where I think I put 3 or 4 quotes out there, and you know and then I didn't get a response. I'm like, oh, am I too pricey? Is that am I too high? What's going on here? They're quiet,
Yeah.
And it just realized that they just had no idea how much it was going to cost, and there was a price shock. So the
Mm.
lesson learned for me was have that conversation with the customer, talk to them about their expectations, and
Oh
now
yeah.
I've got a bit more of understanding of what the costs around what it, for a ducted system or a split system. And I can give them a ballpark figure, or range, off the bat. I said, here's, I'm not going to be the cheapest, but I can tell you what it's going to be put in, and it's going to be attention to detail, and I'm going to be trustworthy and reliable when this thing goes in, and I'll be there for
and
it towards. And
and that's another
that,
thing, because I get asked about as far as like what people make as a technician and stuff like that, but
hmm,
also when I'm talking about business and talking, I was like, I don't know if it's hard for me to talk prices with certain
sure,
people that like are in California or something.
sure,
And I'm like, you have to realize, like, I'm in a low market area. It's a low
sure,
cost of
yeah,
living here. So
yeah,
we have to be pretty competitive. Now, we're not the cheapest. There are
yeah,
companies that are way cheaper than us, and they think
yeah,
we're cheap.
yeah,
And that's another thing you have to take into account. Like you said, like, feel out your market, see what
yeah,
everything goes for in your area. Every area is different,
It's
and
different.
a
Yep.
lot of the stuff that we did was to be competitive when pricing, and we've slowly, gone up and
Yeah.
figured out where we fit in there. But that's
Yep.
a whole thing, the market or the area you're in.
Some of the best advice, I got was no, it comes back at knowing what your worth is, and it also comes around a concept of like a Japanese concept around ikigai, which is your reason for being, like who you are and what you're capable of doing. You know that you do a good job. And for me, I was lucky. For my ikigai is, energy and HVAC. That's my reason of being. The main thing is my family, right? Family first.
Yeah.
But I found something that gives me a sense of being and a reason for living, and I love it. I love that, and I get paid for it. When I'm looking at positioning where I want Capital and Coast to be, my small business, is that um, I'm in a position that I can pick and choose my customers. I don't have to do that job. I don't. I can. It's all right to
Hmm.
say no. Uh,
Yeah.
it's okay to go into a house and share with a customer and talk about that. I'm not going to be the most cheapest. I'm not going to be the cheapest. You know. And if that's what you're after, then I'm potentially not the right contractor for you for this job. But here's the reason. And uh, I I also built the ethics around Capital Coast about being honest and transparent. And so, I give them a full price breakdown. They see the cost of the unit, they see how much my labor is, and they have a good understanding of what's involved and the parts involved and the dollars associated that. So it's all open. I don't get those calls that can you give me a itemized breakdown of 50 things. It's like it's already there. Here it is. I'm still getting paid on my day to day.
Mm.
With Transpower, I'm all good. I'm good. I'm doing this because I love it.
Yeah,
And this is
that's a good
this is what
position
it's
to be
worth.
in.
And I know that's very different to many others and others that are starting out, either in the trade or having their own small business.
Well,
I haven't made.
like with us, we started, and you learn your lessons, and the mistakes that you make when you start. But we were taking on too much work. We were doing too many things. We were too cheap.
Yeah,
Like all that we learned, and like you said, you had to you know your worth and your value, and just stick to what you like, the quality work that you put out. And
yeah,
we raised our prices eventually. We
yeah,
figured out, and then we, like you said, we would turn away work after a while. We're like, no, this is too much.
yeah,
And I have the same mindset that you do, even though this is my main
yes,
business and form of income. It's like, take it or leave it, right? Like, I'm not doing a,
yeah,
a a change out or install
yeah,
for anything less than what I quoted, right?
yeah,
Like, that's what I need to do to make, or to stay in business and make money. And
yeah,
it's nice when you get to a point, because like I said, when you start, you might have to grind it out,
yeah,
figure it out and all that.
yeah,
But like, when you get to a point in this trade, in this HVAC trade, if you run a business, essentially you want to be able to pick and choose, and maybe niche down into, like, we like to do kitchen work
yeah,
only.
yeah,
And you have that luxury. You can do that. That's what a lot of people strive to do when they're opening up a business in HVAC. And that's, like, it took us a while, it took us a few years to get to that. But like,
yeah,
I turn down work, I pick and choose, I set my prices, and that's that.
yeah,
You made this full circle, basically
yeah,
starting in HVAC,
yeah,
transitioning to power, and
yeah,
where you work at now. And then you kind of full circle came to opening an HVAC business. So like,
yeah,
are you trying to transition back into HVAC? Are you going to keep both, like, options right now? Like, are you
yeah,
still going to be doing both jobs essentially?
yeah, yeah. So still doing both. I think definitely not there right now, as in the volume of work to really um, to to step out, I guess, that leap of faith and
Yeah.
move into full time just yet. Um, but uh, I think there's some other concepts and ideas I'm been trying to play around with a little bit, and that is educating and bringing up, and then uh, it might be where my partner Jerry steps in a little bit more and oversees operations, but start to expand through maybe not me being on the tools.
Okay.
But it's a tough one. I just, I've got commitments still. Being looking after the family and paying all the bills and stuff like that. And
Well, I was gonna ask
I'm
also,
not gonna
like,
lie. It's just, I'm not there to. I don't have the
yeah.
customer range depth yet to make that transition. But
Well,
um,
you're building and growing, but like I was gonna
yeah,
ask that as well. Like, if you're doing this as a side job, essentially, you're working after
yeah,
hours or weekends. How
yeah,
difficult is it to balance essentially what is two jobs, one that you own,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
family time? Because you sound like you're somebody that really likes,
yeah.
or that is important to you as a family time.
I do find it challenging. I'm a natural workaholic. It runs in the
I
family.
think we all are in the trade.
Um, I've got to be smart in making those decisions around my family and protecting that as much as I can. And I think I may have asked you that same question. Is like, how the hell do you do your job and then do all the content? And anyway, that's a whole
Like,
nother
do
whole
you
nother
set
call.
like
But
do you
yeah,
set like limits and boundaries and stuff? That's what I try to
I
do.
do. Yeah. So when I start my day with Transpower starts early. So I get up early. I'll head into the office and I'm home by 4 p.m. typically 4
Okay.
4:30. Um, I do something kind of like mentally. I take off my jacket and hang it on the door, and that's me walking in through the threshold and saying I've switched gears to be dad now.
Yeah.
My role is to be super dad, as best I
Yeah.
can after a hard day or whatever it might be. You leave that at the doorstep and you shift gears. I'm blessed to have a partner who's been there as a homemaker and caregiver for the last 7 years. So if I didn't
Okay.
have that, it would be a different story. So all credit to my partner. She's
Mhm.
allowed me to do this, and it, but it's a challenging thing. It's finding that peace and balance of. So yeah, come in the door, hang the coat, switch into full dad mode until my youngest heads off to bed.
Okay.
And then I switch back on to capital and coast. Um, And there's times throughout the day, I might break for lunch at work or whatever, or morning tea, and I've got my other Capital and Coast phone,
Mhm.
and I've got messages on there, and I'm sitting there doing that, and I'm open and honest with with them, and so they know it's all out in the open,
Oh, okay.
and nothing's hidden. So that's yeah, but I think it goes back. Yeah, there's going to be there will no doubt be a time where the workload is too much, that that I that I'm stretched between both, yeah, that I
Yeah.
have to make that decision for sure. That um, I'm not there yet, but if it continues to go on the trajectory and where we think it's going to go, then yeah, there'll be a time where I'm going to have to make that decision.
Yeah,
um,
man. And
uh,
I'm like that too, where I try to separate work from home. I don't want it to mix too much. Even though I run
yeah,
a business with my dad,
yeah,
um, there I don't have, like, I have certain notifications that come through on my phone. I have some that are like silent notifications, and I'll
yeah,
check them when I can, or every so often, right? Just make sure nothing came in or any
yeah,
calls came in for work. But and then I've, like you mentioned, the social media stuff in this podcast and everything. A lot of my, and if anybody ever wonders why I take a while to answer on like Instagram or anything like that, as soon as I get home, all of those are silenced, right? Because
mm,
I
yeah,
value, like you said, being with the kids. We have dinner plans, all this other stuff, and I don't want my phone going off all the time. So I do separate that, and I'll check it. I mean, I'm on my phone too much as it is, but I'll check it
yeah,
when I'm free and when I'm available and stuff. So it's very important to separate it. I know it can cause a whole bunch of issues if you let it
yeah,
mix in with each other, um and obviously it's stressful just even having a day job, in the trade or anything. But
yeah.
you gotta work at it, you gotta separate it. Now, you doing these two things, do you have a preference? Because like, do you like doing one
Man,
over the other?
as in the whole electrical side, the grid
And
side versus HVAC. Man, that's a tough question. Eh? It's
because
both of my
it the
passions.
HVAC
Yeah.
side brought you back, obviously.
Yeah, oh, for sure. You know, and I met you and a few others. Like, how good's that? I think I've rekindled something,
Yeah.
in me personally about that. My mum was an amazing school teacher, and I think that giving back. And I think I mentioned it. I sent a message to Zach today from Quality HVAC. I'm like, man, I think my calling is to really just start to get HVAC known as a trade. One, right? It's not like this little thing in the background,
That's
like
a main
around
goal.
electricity,
Yeah, that's a main
and
goal of mine.
talk about it at schools. Talk about it with
Yes.
high schools where the next young apprentices are thinking about maybe school's not their thing and they're looking at a trade that air conditioning is right up there, and so
Hmm.
I think maybe 2024 for me is sort of getting around some of the industry here in New Zealand, um, and being a part of that, and being able to share and learn from you and others, and starting a channel. And I started a small channel. It's pretty crappy at the moment, mate, to be honest with you. It's got a couple of videos on there, but it's just, I've got to start somewhere, and if I can
Oh
get the
yeah.
news out and the word out and encourage others, encourage new people to come involved, get their fingers wet, get them understanding about what it is about HVAC, and I think that's where it's at for me. To be
And
fair, like
that's really
yeah,
cool because like that whole side of things, like I've wanted that too. Like I did not know what HVAC was when I was
yeah, me
looking
neither.
to get into something, right? And then a lot of people just fall into it either through family or just by luck.
Yeah,
And then they love it, right? It's like the best thing that they've ever done. So, and I mean that's really cool that that kind of ignited that in you because we need more of that. So we need, content. I hope you said you had like a YouTube channel. I know you
yeah,
from Instagram, so I'll leave all
yeah,
that in the description if anybody wants to go check that
cool.
out. But we need more content. I've had tons of conversations with people that start channels and stuff, and it's never a bad thing just to try it out or start out or talk about the trades because, like I said, like not a lot of people know about it, and
Yeah,
I was one of those people. Like I did good in school, and I talked about this on Josh's
yeah,
show yesterday. Like I was lucky. I was pretty good in school. Like I got the good grades and
yeah,
everything like that. I just did not like school. So
yeah,
when college came around, I went through the whole what you're expected to do is, go to college and find a degree, right? Well,
yeah,
like I didn't like doing school stuff. I didn't want to be stuck there for like 6, 8 years, whatever, those high degrees are. But
yeah,
I loved working on stuff as a kid, taking apart things, figuring out how things worked. And then funny, well, not funny, but like coincidentally enough, later in life, when we had this whole shutdown that we talked about earlier,
yeah,
a lot of those people with those jobs, business jobs or whatever it may be, were either transitioning to try and work from home or
yeah,
they were getting laid off. There was no
yeah,
work for them. The trades does not shut down. So it's always a good
yeah,
investment in yourself to learn a skill trade. And I mean, you're always going to have work when it comes to it.
yeah.
So I just want more people to know because kids don't know this.
That's
They
right.
don't see it as an option, and it could be a career that you make out of it.
How good is this career? Is that 17-year-old, 4-year apprenticeship, went to the US, toured around the US
Yeah,
doing HVAC, got into controls, came back, traveled a whole bunch, found a way back into New Zealand, all pretty much around this whole HVAC experience. And I think that's something else we can probably leave viewers with, hey, is that you do your time, you do your apprenticeship or whatever it might be, your study in HVAC, you can go
oh
anywhere in
yeah,
the world and pick it up. I've got friends in the Middle East that I communicate with on Instagram, that are doing it there. I've got, friends in the UK, it's like it'll take you to places if you let it. If that's, what you want to do and get around, you can totally do it anywhere.
you can go
I'm living
anywhere.
proof. You can do anything. You can do
Yeah, you
absolutely
can
anything.
go anywhere, do anything, and then carve your own path in this trade. Like you said, we talked
Yeah.
about controls, you
Yeah.
traveling, you getting into the power
Yeah.
side of things from your HVAC company that you're with. And
Yeah.
like, you never know where it can take you. If you don't like what you do or you
Yeah.
find something else, it's going to be in the trade still, but you have a lot of choices, honestly.
And the next thing, we'll have to get you and your family down here to New Zealand, mate. I have to show you around the North Island, the South Island, maybe some Pacific Islands, and
Yeah, like I said,
yeah,
my girlfriend, she was like, man, because I brought up New Zealand because, like I said, I had talked to you and I had talked to a couple other guys
yeah,
that I've been commenting and stuff, and I was like, hey, these guys are all from New Zealand, and that's something that blew me away when I started posting. It was like, I was trying to do it for my business, right?
yeah,
Advertising like the work that we do. And then I started getting people from Europe and all these different
yeah,
countries. I was like, holy crap, like it's this community, Instagram,
yeah,
YouTube, all this stuff. It's like worldwide where you can talk to people. And I mean, this is a good example. Texas with New Zealand here
yeah,
in the episode today. And it's amazing. So anyway, I mentioned that to her and she was like, oh, I like, it's beautiful, I love it there. Like she's always
yeah,
wanted to go there. So I don't know, maybe we'll make a trip down there eventually and
man.
see
Be
you
happy to
guys.
host you guys. Yeah,
That's awesome. So like I said, we're over an hour and a half. I don't want to keep you too long.
yeah.
Like I said, I'll leave all your information in the description if there's anything you want to close off on. You know, I appreciate you for
No,
coming on.
yeah, no. Thanks for coordinating this. I know it's hard with the time difference.
Oh, the time zone.
And
It's evening for me, and it's the next day,
yeah, that's
afternoon for
right.
you.
Yeah. And just allow me to share on your platform and I know there's some pretty good conferences coming up there in the US and I would be keen to hopefully come out there and catch up with you in person. That'd be great. Or maybe see you down here or some of our own conferences that we have down here or in Australia. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to
But
do more of those because I just found out about the AHR Expo a few years ago and trying to
yeah,
find out more about other ones. So yeah, eventually, and that's the cool thing about it is I know so many people on Instagram and YouTube, and then
yeah,
I've gotten to meet a good amount of them at these conventions and expos and stuff. So yeah, maybe one day, man.
cool. All
All
right.
right. Well, thanks for coming on
Thanks,
the
Adrian.
show.
Yeah.
Everybody watching, listening, and I appreciate you guys for coming out, and I'll see you guys next time.